any given Sunday. This is now the end of our first half, so a big week, but also something to celebrate now that we will be going downhill into the playoffs starting in week 8. So don't want to jump ahead. Lots to talk about in the future, but first, NFL stuff. Then let's see what happened in our league in week 7. I will admit this week was a little bit tricky for me to be focused as I'm wrapping up the week 7 games and thinking we're now on kind of the back 9 or back 7, I guess. And this is officially midseason for fantasy football. I was also not surprisingly trying to watch game 7 as the Monday Nighters were going on. So while I was pretty pumped up about baseball, it did get me thinking a little bit how much baseball sometimes gets crapped on. Now, I'm not going to go on a huge tangent because I understand if you're here, you probably at least like football. You might also like baseball. But I think sometimes the leagues with like a lot of games, especially baseball, but you can throw basketball in too, get crapped on for being run not so well because the regular season can get a little bit dry. Especially baseball over the summer. We take it for granted because there's so many games. And yet the NFL gets all this credit for how the league is run. And I gotta say, this week it was really highlighted. I don't think the NFL is run well at all. And I know that's not shocking. Some people have a very similar opinion. But it's like if other sports are selling lemonade, legitimately the NFL is selling cocaine. They don't need to sell it. It is just a product that is super easy to gamble on. We've talked about this before. I know I'm not the first and only one to say it, but there's a lot of people in these leagues that couldn't really walk me through basic defensive sets in football, but know what a good fantasy line is and want to beat their friends in something. So I think just because it is a fun product doesn't mean it's being sold a whole lot better. And the reason I went on this tangent is I'm one of the few idiots that over here on this side of the world, I actually got up to follow some of the early games. When I say early, I'm talking about the 1 o'clock East Coast. And they all sucked. But if you looked at the schedule, it wasn't a shock that they sucked. I mean, we could go back to my comment last week saying just because it's close doesn't make it good. And Jets Carolina was like the embodiment of this. I mean, if you score twice, well, for the Giants 3 times, they don't make their kicks, but 14, 15 points is going to win a game. That doesn't make it awesome. Like, name one play in that game. Try and think of one. Not going to happen. And it's not like a shock. Cleveland, Miami, I mean, it was played in a hurricane. I knew it was going to be garbage, and I'm a Browns fan. In fact, I'm actually mad that they won because it's mid-season. I'm already pissed that it cost us a pick. The 4 o'clocks, though, the late games, those were much, much better. And weirdly enough, the Dallas-Washington game, which is probably the game I was the most excited about, was the worst one. But at least we had some close calls, some comebacks, etc. So it wasn't like necessarily there was no bad games. In fact, a lot of the games were entertaining. Just maybe spread them out a little bit and actually get to enjoy some of the good games instead of trying to put them all at nights. I mean, people back in North America, we're lucky out here. I get one subscription to DAZN or DAZN or whatever you want to call it, and I get all the games. From what I understand, if you're in North America, it's 6 subscriptions or something you need to get all of these games. And there's no guarantee that they're going to be any good. Even if, take the Thursday nighter, if you're thinking that was an awesome game, you probably didn't necessarily watch it. It was entertaining, but it wasn't great football. I mean, Mike Tomlin is supposed to be this great football mind, and I really honestly think that he was. But on the other side, we have a failed Browns quarterback in Flacco who doesn't know the playbook. And actually, that's not an insult. He said it afterwards. He can't understand Zach Taylor's voice in his head, so he doesn't know what plays are supposed to be called. So he's just like Vince Vaughn and Wedding Crash, just yelling hot route and essentially throwing it to the best receiver in the game. 23 targets and 16 receptions. He's not even trying to pretend that he was trying to run an offense. He just threw in some audibles, pointed to someone, and gave it to the best guy on the field. And Pittsburgh is supposed to be this phenomenal defensive front, not this year, but in general, in theory, they're supposed to be this great defense, and they couldn't figure that one out. I'm starting to wonder if maybe Rodgers was lying and maybe he made the whole team get all vaccinated. Maybe they're now on the spectrum, because I've seen more adaptability from NPC characters from old video games. You got to know, you got to make some kind of a read. They were not even trying to pretend they weren't just forcing him the ball. You got to stop something. Anywho, I'm not really sure if it was my comparison to baseball or the fact that, again, I'm not going to make it all about the Jays. And I want to make it all about the Jays, but let me have this because I'm not so sure the World Series is going to go super well. Football was super entertaining this week. I still dug it. I still liked it, but I don't know if it was actually what I'd consider good football, save for a couple games. We'll see if Week 8 has any kind of way of changing this. but I would say maybe not. We are walking into Buyapalooza. This is the only week, I believe, that has 6 teams on a bye. But you know what? We'll get to that when we get to the post-game stuff. First, let's maybe talk about week 7 a little bit and see how that affected our leagues. Now, what's odd, Ernie McCracken, or EMC as I might just continue to call you, you're on a bit of a slide. You went from undefeated to now 3 in a row, but I can't really blame you on this one as you actually were the 3rd highest scoring team, meaning you only played one of the 2 people that you couldn't have played and got a W. So I don't think you have to kick it to the curb, but you definitely want to shake off whatever you've been doing recently and just try and change the habits a bit. You did have Jonathan Taylor, who was our RB3, and you definitely had Jake the Snake Ferguson, tight end 4, and has been a consistent scorer for you all season. On your bench, you had some potential points, and Addison might have helped a bit, especially with the 10-point difference, but don't blame you, and really hard to trust at this stage coming out of it. Now, pretty good team here, Paul. You did have a pretty good performance. Mahomes was just outside of the top 5. I think he was QB6. Chase had that monster game. If we were full point per reception, I think it would have been even more of a monster game, but he still was the wide receiver 2 on the week. You had the tight end 3, so to just outdo your tight end opponent here. And you made mostly good decisions. It wasn't quite a commando basement. It wasn't quite empty, but it was pretty darn close. So you made most of the right calls. You were our highest scorer for the week, and you needed it as well. You're still both now in the playoff hunt. In fact, if the playoffs started today, you wouldn't play each other in the first round, but just barely. And we're going to see with the tie here what that actually means. So huge win for you, Paul. Congrats. EMC, don't stress, but you got to change the habit. 3 in a row is never good, but you keep scoring 150. I don't think you'll have this problem each week. The only other team he couldn't have played was our number 2 scorer for the week, and that was Michael. You needed this one to get yourself into that top 6 spot. We'll see how that exactly pans out when we get to the end here. You did just take Joe down by about 18. Most matchups were actually quite close this week, which was nice to see. On the winning side here, you did have some people scratch that top 5. You had the wide receiver 5 in Allen, the running back 5 in Swift. You also did have the best defense that we could start. In fact, the defense number 1. Overall number 1 on the week in Cleveland, and very rarely do I get to say that. You had some injury concerns and some people you want to keep up with, especially Nico Collins, and taking a look at your bench. Some points here, but obviously you were dealing with some issues, matchup and otherwise. On the flip side to that coin, this one, Motor City, I mean, Matthew Stafford was the QB4, so you definitely could have used them. Not your fault on this one, but Jaden Daniels did get hurt, so you had an issue of your own. Jamison Williams posting a bagel, that obviously hurt you. You did have CMC, who was the running back 2, and Devontae Smith, which was the wide receiver 1, and as we're going to get to in a second here, has even more value because his counterpart might be out for a week or 2 here, so let's see how that pans down. Either way, for the 8th spot, we're going to see just how tight that is. So even scoring 140 is nice. You're going to want high points, but you really could have used the win. And speaking of use the win, if it finished right now, top 6 makes the playoffs. So Michael, that was a big one. Ah, man, if you watch this matchup, there was actually times when I was looking kind of okay, but then not at all. Kevin, you just kind of took it to me. Gibbs and Judkins, so you had the running backs 1 and 4, so that kind of stunk. You had the defense 2 in New England here, and then just enough because, frankly, I wasn't exactly putting up much of a fight, so we can look at the bench all we want. Now, I could have made it slightly spicier because I did have the quarterback 3 on my bench. Could have thrown a dart at the board. That might have helped, but I also had the quarterback 1 in Bo Nix, so hopefully I would have taken him out for love. Realistically, the injury kind of got me. I mean, Waller was someone I was very touchdown dependent anyways. I wasn't like expecting a ton of points, but I was expecting like points, but then again, look at my running backs. Wah wah. JSN's awesome. That is all. So congratulations, Keen, top 4. It looks like I fell pretty hard to the cat killer. And like I said, matchups are going to matter, points are going to matter. So this one kind of stunk on 2 levels for me. But for you, Kevin, awesome game. Congrats on the win. Jake and Jim went at it, and we're not going to like the way this one pans out because when I go down to the bench, we did have some points that could have shifted things. Jake, you had the wide receiver 3, and I say had in the past tense because, number 1, I don't blame you for not trusting AJ, but Now he's out for at least a week, so want on that one. Olave, though, came out for you. He was the wide receiver 4 on the week, which really was the prize pig of your team. Flacco, I mean, that's awesome. He just cracked the top 5. He was the QB5 this week. So if he can just play Pittsburgh all the time, I think you'd be dancing. Except if, you start Pittsburgh. Come on, man. On the flip side of that coin, Jim, you had one of those rare occurrences where you actually didn't have anyone on the top 5 starting, but still put up well over predicted. So you just kind of did well. And even your low points were people that you weren't expecting more from anyway. Sure, we can say Rico Dowdle, he's been like quadrupling as predicted, so he might have been disappointed, but you got just over, you got what you needed, you made mostly the right calls here, so can't really complain. Plus, you're 5-2, so even if you did complain, no one's really listening. Jake, on the flip side of that coin, you're going to see you're not quite out of it yet, but I wouldn't be shocked to see a little wheeling and dealing in both a few people's futures. You might be one of them. It is a dubious distinction, but Will, you do get the win with the lowest amount of points for people who got wins, playing the lowest amount of points and our current basement at 2-5. Now, just talking about Thielen Breezy here, Ben, you had some bad luck and some bad plays here. Now, obviously, you knew by starting some people that you maybe weren't keen on starting. You had some issues you had to address, but Tua, whew, I don't even want to make a hawk Tua, because if you look down here, your quarterbacks, and then you had Bryce on the bench. Yowza, that is just rough going right now. Sorry, buddy, that stinks. When the prize of the week is your defense, and it's not even really that close unless we want to talk about the wood, you're starting at tight end. Yeah, just grinning and bearing at time. Let's see how it works, and let's see what you can make happen in the next couple weeks. Now, Will, you got to be pretty happy. Your quarterback, Herbert's doing quite well. He was the QB2 on the week. Your wide receivers actually underperformed. I mean, Amon-Ra does what he does, but Tech McMillan's been a sneaky good start, and he really underperformed for you. Bijan's been awesome. Warren's been a good pickup. So it's kind of a dance with who brung you a week, and you got the win. You're still 6-1. You're still the overall number 1, so can't really complain, buddy. Always like to start here as we take a quick look. We're starting to gap a little bit, but as you see here, the 3 and 4 win teams are bunching up. Even the 2s, you're not out of it quite yet, because remember, total points scored. So M, C, D, the Motor City dudes, you actually are outscoring quite a few teams with wins over you. So if you get that win, actually you can vault ahead pretty quick. Similarly, the 4 and 3s, you got to be careful about defending that position. So enough said here. We're entering our back 9/back 7. Matchups, as always, are going to matter. So a couple big ones. I love it when a 1 and 2 get after it. I love it when a 3 and 4 or some teams that need to make the playoffs. Super exciting matchups. Let's not read too much into this because not everyone set their roster, but pretty pumped for week 8 already. Can't say it enough. Week 8 is going to be a big one. Starting off our second half, starting a lot of runs. You're going to notice in every fantasy league, there's always a team that hits fire on that second half, making a push, and nobody's out of it quite yet. On the flip side to that coin, let's see at the top of our league, can you go on that run to clinch a spot and just kind of ease up a little bit or feel a little bit better about your performance? Lots of stories, lots of things to go to. 1 versus 2, 3 versus 4. Can't wait for it. Good luck in week 8, everyone.